Hey everyone, welcome back. So a lot of people, especially obviously in the establishment, criticized Tulsi Gabbard for misconstruing Pete Buttigieg's words from the debates. But it seems like Tulsi was right in questioning Buttigieg because now Donald Trump has said he wants to name all of the cartels as terrorist groups. This is a problem. So it's as if Tulsi saw into the future, right? Because during the debate, and we have the debate here, she called out Pete Buttigieg, and she did so because he had stated that he wanted to send troops to Mexico to deal with the cartels, and he had stated that that's a fact. But the problem here is that he was gaslighting. He made it out to be like she didn't know what she was talking about, that she was only saying that. Why don't we just watch a little bit of this and I'll get back to it, because I really want you guys to see exactly what he said and exactly how it was twisted.
Pete, you'll agree that the service that we both have provided to our country as veterans by itself does not qualify us to serve as commander-in-chief. I think the most recent example of your inexperience in national security and foreign policy came from your recent careless statement about how you as president would be willing to send our troops to Mexico to fight the cartels. As commander-in-chief, leader of our armed forces, I bring extensive experience serving for 7 years in Congress, on the Foreign Affairs Committee, on the Armed Services Committee, on the Homeland Security Committee, meeting with leaders of countries around the world, working with military commanders of different commands, dealing with high-level national security briefings, understanding what's necessary, the preparation that I've gotten to walk in on day one to serve as Commander-in-Chief.
Congresswoman, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'll allow you to respond.
I know that it's par for the course in Washington to take remarks out of context, but that is outlandish even by the standards of today's politics.
Are you saying that you didn't say that?
I was talking about U.S.-Mexico cooperation. We've been doing security cooperation with Mexico for years, with law enforcement cooperation and a military relationship that could continue to be developed with training relationships, for example. Do you seriously think anybody on this stage is proposing invading Mexico?
That's not what I said.
I'm talking about building up alliances. And if your question is about experience, let's also talk about judgment. One of the foreign leaders you mentioned meeting was Bashar al-Assad. I have, in my experience, such as it is, whether you think it counts or not, since it wasn't accumulated in Washington, enough judgment that I would not have sat down with a murderous dictator like that.
Congresswoman Gabbard, let me allow you to respond.
Thank you. You were asked directly whether you would send our troops to Mexico to fight cartels, and your answer was yes. The fact checkers can check this out. No. But your point about judgment is absolutely correct. Our commander-in-chief does need to have good judgment. And what you've just pointed out is that you would lack the courage to meet with both adversaries and friends to ensure the peace and national security of our nation. I take the example of those leaders who have come before us, leaders like JFK, who met with Khrushchev, like Roosevelt, who met with Stalin,
like Donald Trump,
Reagan, who met and worked with Gorbachev. These issues of national security are incredibly important. I will meet with and do what is necessary to make sure that no more of our brothers and sisters in uniform are needlessly sent into harm's way fighting regime change wars that undermine our national security. I'll bring real leadership and experience to the White House.
So Gabbard refers to his inexperience, and that inexperience was evident when he talked about supporting sending American troops into Mexico to fight the drug cartels, which is true. First of all, Buttigieg is the mayor of a really small town in Indiana, South Bend. So the fact that he's even running and has this much support beats me, right? But we can trace the CIA ties another day, because that would be an extremely long video. But he says, I know it's par for the course in Washington to take remarks out of context, but that is outlandish even by the standards of today's politics. Here's he's gaslighting, because he's saying, oh, you took it out of context. And she's like, you didn't say that. And he's like, I was talking about U.S.-Mexico cooperation. This is key right here. I was talking about U.S.-Mexico cooperation. The thing is, when the United States and the Western Empire want to engage in a sort of coup and in a sort of takeover for resources, whatever those may be, and any sort of special interest, that's what we talk about. We call it cooperation. We call it democracy. We call it humanitarian aid. We call it everything but what it is. And what it is involving ourselves in the war on drugs, which we all know is a big facade to, you know, increase our for-profit prison system, is to involve ourselves in that and name everybody universally a member of the cartel. And then, of course, you're going to bring the military. You're going to tell me that Mexico is just going to sit there and let you do that. Now, we have a president in Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, AMLO, who has just received Evo Morales, who has just, you know, taken him in from persecution. Are we really going to expect Mexico to just stand by and just let the military interfere? That's not what's going to happen. What it looks like is a sort of attempt to have our troops in Mexico to sort of kind of bully and dispel some sort of fear and dominance over this country. We can talk about the drug cartels. We can talk about how much of a problem they are, but we can also not ignore the fact that we have fomented the creation of drug cartels, that we ourselves have created terrorists in the Middle East. We create these problems in these countries and then turn around and act like we're going to save them. And nothing has made it more clear than Buttigieg and then Trump's subsequent attempt to universally name every cartel member a terrorist. We have our own homegrown terrorists, and it's, you know, if we really cared about that, we would start within our own backyard. I want to talk about the fact that this could turn into a regime change war. This could actually become something that I think Tulsi had like a crystal ball. I think she saw the writing on the wall where she's like, okay, you're going to send these troops there, and then this is going to be us interfering in another country yet again, policing the world. We don't have time to do that. We don't have the resources. We need to stop. We are creating more problems. And so this goes along with her, you know, anti-interventionist policy. Whereas Buttigieg, when he was a veteran, just like, well, he's a veteran just like Tulsi, but when he was deployed, he worked for many CIA operatives you can't even talk about. And like I said, I'm going to do another video on all his sort of operative work. But he clearly is on the same status quo track of, yes, we need to police the world. We need to pretty much invade other countries. His stance on Israel is very similar. And so if he's agreeing with Donald Trump's sort of rhetoric, really, are we voting for a Democrat? Are we really, does it even matter if these Democrats and these Republicans end up agreeing on war? So yeah. And let's take a look at exactly how Donald Trump, of course, will classify these cartels. He said they will be designated. I have been working on that for the last 90 days. You know, designation is not that easy. You have to go through a process, and we are well into that process, Trump said in an interview aired on Tuesday with conservative media personality Bill O'Reilly. And then soon after, Mexico's foreign ministry issued a statement saying that they would quickly seek a high-level meeting with the State Department officials to address the legal designation as well as the flow of arms and money into organized crime. And then later on, they said that they were going to talk to Mike Pompeo and discuss the an important issue for both Mexico and the United States. And this is important to note because once you call a particular group a terrorist group, under U.S. law, it's illegal for anybody in the United States to knowingly offer support, and the members of that group can't enter the country and they may be deported. So if Trump can freely name anybody a terrorist in Mexico, that creates a multitude of problems, we know, because of his anti-immigration policies. And in addition to an ever-increasing drug problem fomented, of course, by us, it just creates a whole crisis that we can quickly see getting out of control. And again, I think Tulsi Gabbard saw that writing on the wall. In addition to completely deporting and, marking those people and not having any contact with them, nobody here and any financial institution here that knows of the funds connected to that group must block all the money and alert the U.S. Treasury Department. So now we're seeing like the money is going to be involved, and it just creates a whole mess. There's a gentleman that by the name of Alex LeBron. He was a former Mexican congressman, and he was a relative to some of the victims that were killed by drug gangs in the area. And he said, "We have already been invaded by terrorist cartels. We demand real coordination between both countries. Both countries are responsible for the rising trade in drugs, weapons, and money." This is really important because the United States is extremely, highly, majorly responsible for the weapons trade and the drug trade. This is something that benefits us. I mean, we have found, groups of law enforcement that have actually been selling weapons to the cartels for money. And this is not something that I'm making up. This is something you can look up. It's been happening time and time again. Our own government has done this. And the majority of the weapons people get from around the world, they get from the United States. And that's something that we can't deny anymore. And so the idea that we're going to come in and save the day yet again is a G.I. Joe movie illusion of a fantasy that is just not real. So there you go, guys. Tulsi Gabbard, once again, pointing it out before it happens, reading into the future, so to speak, because of her knowledge in the language and the positioning of people like Pete Buttigieg and other people that have been in the military that are very much war hawks, period, that they just want to continue our imperialism, us policing the world. They want to continue keeping us in regime change wars. And the fact that she was vilified and, they twisted it to say that, oh, no, he showed her. No, like she showed him. And that's been pretty apparent in the subsequent reactions from everybody. So once again, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and make sure to hit the bell at the Convo Couch. We're on Twitter, Twitch, Rockfin, a cryptocurrency platform. And we are also on the MCSC network. I am Fiorella. I am on Twitter. Follow me. And thank you so much for supporting us. And please support our Patreon, where we put specific videos for our Patreon members only. Thanks for watching. Convo out.